yet, maybe cut it off, and now we can have some nice, peaceful time. We are being live streamed, and we welcome you here in person and also to those that are coming in over the live stream. So the Mississippi Board of Education meeting today, October 19th, 10 o'clock a.m., fourth floor in the boardroom of the Central High School building, Mississippi Department of Education, located at 359 Northwest Street, Jackson, Mississippi. So we call our meeting to order, and I'd like for Ms. Werner and Mr. Jacobs, if you will, tell us where you are. Ms. Werner?
Mary Warner, I'm in Tupelo.
Okay, and Mr. Jacobs?
Jacobs, I'm in Watercolor, Florida.
All right. Glad to have y'all with us via Zoom this morning. At this time, I'd like for you to stand for the pledge invocation. Mr. Pruitt will lead us in the pledge, and Mr. Walters in the invocation.
Would please face the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let us pray. Heavenly Father, thank you for giving us this time together to come and discuss very important issues in our educational system in Mississippi. Please guide our decisions today and help us make the best decision in the best interest of all those involved. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
You have before you the minutes from the September 28th board meeting and also the September 29th special call meeting. If there are no questions about those or changes we need to make, may I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Mr. McGehee on the motion and Ms. Werner on the second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. You also have before you the agenda for today's meeting. Are there any additions or deletions for that agenda? If there are none, may I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Mr. Pruitt on the motion
Second.
and the second on Mr. McGehee. All right. Are there any items on the consent agenda that members would like to pull out for discussion? I will tell those of you that are new to us, we get a packet well before this meeting that we go over. So our consent agenda are things that we get from staff to look at, and we approve those at the end of the meeting on one motion. Kind of make our meeting a little shorter for you guys and everybody else that participates. So motion to approve the consent agenda. Ms. Barrett, second.
Second.
Miller. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Right. We have always the fun part of our meeting, have a group of young folks from Holmes County Central High School who have been representing the state of Mississippi in glorious fashion from what we understand. So we're going to turn it over to Jean Cook for this presentation.
Okay, good morning, Mr. East, Dr. Margino, State Board members. It is my honor to present to you the board recognition for the month of October. This month, we are honoring the Holmes County Central High School singers for their performance at Carnegie Hall in New York City. I would like to invite the choir director, Mr. Pietro Gallion, and the choir members to join Mr. East and Dr. Margino at the front of the boardroom. Also in attendance is Dr. Jennifer Wilson, Interim Superintendent of the Holmes County Consolidated School Districts, and she'll introduce several guests from the district. She's right behind me here. Okay. Dr. Wilson, do you want to introduce your guests? Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Good morning. I'm Jennifer Wilson, Interim Superintendent, and let me first of all say to Dr. Margino, Mr. East, school board members, and everyone who's present here today, we're extremely appreciative of this recognition. and we're excited about what our scholars are doing academically. And let me say, not only has the district moved academically, for the second year we are C-rated school district. We have 3 schools that were rated B schools, one of which is the high school. So our students I would be remiss if I did not say that our football team is undefeated. Present with us today, Mr. Antoine Patrick, the high school principal, if you would stand. Antoine. Okay. Ms. Shanatoria Lewis, the choir booster club president. And I think thought my board attorney was here, Ms. Regina May. And as you know, Mr. Pedro Gallion is the choir director and high school teacher. We are excited to be here. We're moving this school district, and we have much work yet to do, but we're headed in the right direction. So thank you again for this accomplishment and for this recognition. I will turn it over to Mr. Gallion.
Mr. Gallion started a choir program at Holmes County Central High School during the 2018-19 school year, and the choir received its first superior rating through the Mississippi High School Activities Association sanctioned Choral Arts Festival in 2019, and has continued to receive excellent and superior ratings since then. Due to their superior ratings, the Holmes County Central High School singers were invited to perform at Carnegie Hall in spring 2023 for the Choirs of America Honors Festival. While at Carnegie Hall, the choir's student director, Lemmy Pfeiffer, soprano section leader Tamara Haynes sang the only solos for the mass choir selection, Lead with Love. Student director Lemmy Pfeiffer conducted the piece. The choir's other notable achievements include the 2021 Southeastern Regional Choral Festival, where they won the entire festival with a score of 98 and superior ratings in all 7 categories. Performances for the Mississippi House of Representatives during the 2023 legislative session, placing 2nd overall at the 2023 World Strides Choral Festival, with superior ratings in 2 of 3 categories, and student Taryn Edwards also received the Maestro Award for Best Solo Performance. Finally, all high school seniors in the choir graduate with choral scholarships that cover tuition and expenses at the colleges of their choice. They'll be And before we hear a selection from this award-winning choir, Mr. Gallion will make remarks.
We'd like to say good morning to everyone. And we're so grateful to be here with the Mississippi Department of Education and to the Mississippi Board of Education. We want to thank you for this momentous occasion that you are recognizing us for our travel to Carnegie Hall. We're truly grateful to be here. We're going to share one selection with you today entitled The Word Was God, which is part of our repertoire from this past year and from this year. And this piece is by a composer and Auburn University professor. Her name is Rosephanie Powell. So without further ado, please enjoy The Word Was God by Rosephanie Powell.
In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. The same was in the beginning with God.
In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. The same was in the beginning with God. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. By whom all things were made, all things were made, have been made. Nothing was made, He has not made. All things were made, All things were made by him, 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 the word was God, and the word was God, in the beginning was the word, and the word was the word was God, and the word was God, in the beginning was the word, and the word was the word God, and the word was God, and the word in the beginning was the word, and the word was the word God, and the word was with God, and the word in the beginning was the word, and the word was with God, and the word, and the word, and the word, and the word was God.
Wow. That was.
The one coming around the corner.
Yeah, that was super well done.
Behalf of all just the Board of Education and Mr. East, entire board, just congratulations.
First, just amazing work, but also an opportunity to take these folks to Carnegie Hall and just to represent our state. Thank you so much.
Thank you, absolutely.
Super, just thank you.
All right, 1, 2, 3. Thank y'all.
Thank you, sir. No, no, no.
That's outstanding. Let's give them another round of applause. At this point, we'll move on with our agenda and hear our report from our state superintendent.
Hey, of course, it's fun to follow that. That was great. That was incredible. We've had a fun couple of weeks. Just this past Tuesday, we had our Student Advisory Council. We met over at the Capitol and had about 90 students high school students from across the state. That was a lot of fun. We gave them a lot of time to talk about issues, and then gave them a project that they'll present at our final meeting later this year. And also, pretty excited, our next meeting, we're going to take them on a tour to Nissan and tour the plant there and let them see all the different opportunities there. So that'll be a lot of fun. We also had a recent Superintendent's Advisory Group meeting here, and that was also really good to hear just different ideas and concerns and different things that they have going on in their districts, and so that was good as well. We also had in our meeting there, we had a gentleman from the Homeland Security to share with them just some of the grants cybersecurity grants that Homeland Security is offering. So that was good. Also, this past Friday, we had a legislative roundtable with some of our military leaders and leaders from some of the different ROTC programs across the state, and also the couple of our legislators, Representative Felsher from the coast, set this up, and it was a really good meeting. Had some good discussion and just some of the benefits of ROTC across our state. We also met recently with some of our folks from the Legislative Budget Office and the Mississippi State Personnel Board, just we kind of prepare for the upcoming session. Then had some school district visits. We were able to travel to Tunica County last week, and they had a big celebration. They, as you guys know, are one of our schools that were taken over by the state years ago, and they have just done tremendous. They're actually a B for the second time in a row. But it was great to go see just a community-wide celebration. They had the entire district there, so that was really fun. And then also had the opportunity to visit Ocean Springs High School and Oak Park Elementary there on the coast. I was there for a SEAS conference, and I was able to share greetings at the conference, but then after the conference was able to head over there and just see some amazing work that their young people and the teachers are doing there as well. Other partner group meetings, met recently with the Mississippi Department of Mental Health, just to talk about some of the things and opportunities that are available for our schools, and continue to work on the mental health aspect of for our students. And then also, we had our leadership team here met with the CEO of the National Center for Education and the Economy, just on some of the things they have going in other states, and just also just talking about things that they offer, and also to share some of the things that we had going on here. So been a busy couple of weeks, but been really good. So subject to your questions, that's all I have.
Any questions? Said no.
All right. Thank
I've
you.
got a question. Is there any way you can say what happened with the mental health? You say you met with the mental health people. Can you give us a little details about that?
Sure, they're just basically sharing on things that, things that are offered and things that can be offered. That was kind of a partnership meeting. There's quite a bit through the ESSER funds, through the funds that have come to our state over the year. Most districts have up, the number of counselors and different things, but also just as the ESSER funds run out, trying to make sure that we're still finding ways to make sure we're serving our students across the state.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
My report is next, and I will tell you that my report also goes to what Dr. Margino was talking about. I had the privilege of driving 4 Gulfport students up for the state superintendent's advisory meeting. So the trip up was normal teenager stuff. Charlie, they were sleeping, had their iPods in, whatever they do in the morning, and they finally woke up by the time we got here. However, on the way back, it was just great chatter about the things that we're going to do, the things they're going to do, the work of you and Katie, and how this thing is running. So great job with that same event that Dr. Margino has mentioned. Kate is taking the PSAT exam this morning. And I think we all know that's probably more important than to be sitting in this room and doing a presentation. So she is not here today, but for those that are new to us, we have 2 student school board members, a junior year, which is Kate, and a senior year, which is Charlie. Their major role with us is to keep us grounded in the world of the students that we work with across the state, making sure we understand as a board at the end of the day, the group that you saw here singing, the groups that are represented through these 2 student school board members are who we are here for. So, Charlie, before you begin, I will tell you that I made an 80 on the test that you gave us for today. I did miss number 5. So go right ahead with your report, sir.
Of course. So good morning, everybody. My name is Charlie Frugier. I'm the senior student representative on the Mississippi Board of Education. Before I start today, I want to tell y'all how amazing that was. That was fantastic. Raise your hand if you're from Holmes. Anybody in here? Y'all's kids are fantastic. That was really cool. I also want to touch on Tuesday, we had the Student Advisory Council at the Capitol. Thank you, Dr. Margino. Thank you, Ms. Miner. Ms. Miner put all that together. She is fantastic. Those kids will present to the board a little later, and they have their own ideas. We have 6 questions that we asked them. They split in groups, and they're going to come up with a lot of really cool things that our officers at MDE will have to take into consideration, and I certainly don't want to steal their thunder. I do want to say that we have a lot of very eager participants, which is what you want. We had Senator Boyd and Representative DeWeese speak, and they spoke for about 5 minutes, and then they opened it up for questions, and they asked a question to the group. They asked about chronic absenteeism, and they had so many answers that it took all their time. So we have a lot of people who, they have things to say, which is exactly what we want. I want to touch on one more thing before I get into y'all's test. Yesterday was an event at Ole Miss Athletic Facility called Fields of Faith. I don't know if anybody's heard of Fields of Faith, but it's a peer-to-peer movement usually run through FCA. And it's an opportunity for students to get together and talk about reading their Bible, to talk about praying, and to talk about fellowship. We had about 150 kids there last night, and that was a really big deal for me. I don't talk about it much here, but I am the president of our FCA at Oxford. Every Thursday I'm putting together worship services and choosing speakers and trying to put together messages for our kids. But having 150 kids show up on a Wednesday night, these kids are dedicated to their faith and they're dedicated to their peers, so that was awesome to see. Now, I'm sure you're all wondering why you have an ACT sheet in front of you. right?
Was I supposed to do this before? Nobody told me that.
Typical student, there's always one that the dog ate the homework, you know that?
Now, I'm not going to quiz any of y'all. I'm not putting you on the spot unless you want to be. But I'm going to show y'all what I do every week with the kids that I tutor, my peers. So this is the first part of a longer document that I wrote in the 9th grade when I started my ACT tutoring club. There weren't too many good materials, and I didn't want to buy anything for my free club, right? So I wrote my own materials. I took some from free ACTs and did this. So there's a little summary of the ACT English section in front of you. There are a few tips on knowing when to use what, and later in my document I would cover how these rules worked. And then there are a few diagnostic questions below that. Because I know Mr. East got the first question, Mr. East, would you read the first question for us?
I'm glad I got this one right. After the incident with the peanut butter, the zebra and me were never invited back.
Does anybody want to raise their hand and tell us the correct answer? Mr. East.
So the correct answer would be J, because me is a object pronoun and I is the subject pronoun, and I
Right.
would be in the subject part of that sentence.
Right, Mr. East. Let's give him a round of applause. All right, now I'll save everybody from going through all 5 of these. But this is what I do every week, and I've been doing this for about 4 years. So as I said, I went into the depths of my computer files to find something that I could pull up and show y'all. And I want to tell y'all a quick story. And it is a specific instance, but it happens all the time. So last month, I tutored a dear friend. He's a senior at Oxford High School. He's an average student. He makes A's and B's. He's got no trouble, and he reached out for some ACT help. So, of course, I obliged. We started with a question very similar to that first one that Mr. East just read. And I explained subjects and objects, and, of course, all of y'all nod along, and that makes sense. But his look was very different. He had no clue what a subject and an object was. He didn't know what a noun was or a verb. So when I tell you that this did happen, you must believe me, but this is not just one specific instance. This happens more than you know. And I go to an A-rated school. My kids should know this, right? Dozens of my peers don't know when to use a semicolon or a comma. They don't even know what an M-dash is. But that's not their fault. After 4 years of the same conversation, in which I explain the basic properties of nouns and verbs to 18-year-olds, I find myself with one question. How did this happen? They've been through 12 grades. They've had 12 English teachers. They've had 12 opportunities to learn basic grammar. But here we are, and somehow it was the job of a 9th grade student at Oxford to explain to 18-year-olds what a noun was. Now, the problem I've described doesn't solely extend to the English section of the ACT. In science, my friends might not know metric conversions. They might not know what an x-axis is or a y-axis. They might not know what an independent variable is or a dependent variable. That might as well be another language to them. And giving these specific instances likely makes the standards people in here's ears perk up. But even I understand what a Herculean task it is to change standards, and that's far above my pay grade. I love to talk about sentence structure and the science of English. We can talk about all the different types of sentences, and I'd love to rattle off sentence structures to all of y'all, and I can drone on about the importance of grammar or diagramming sentences for hours. That's not what I'm getting at here. Mississippi is one of 13 states in the country that mandates the ACT for their kids. And that's a great thing. We should applaud ourselves for that. We're removing the barriers to test taking for our kids. Basic statistics tell me, though, that when everyone takes our test, our average score goes down. If we're going to mandate the test, we ought to mandate test prep as well. And I'll be the first to tell you that the ACT is not inequitable. In fact, it's one of the closest things that you can get to a strictly merit-based system. We're asking everyone the same questions. However, ACT test prep is inequitable. Wealthier students in wealthier schools will spend countless dollars on tutors to teach them the very skills that I've described today. Underfunded schools can't, so they don't. That's where we ought to come in. MDE already has an online test prep library, and that's awesome. I've used it for some of my friends, and I've directed more students than you know to it. More districts need to use this resource. We need to ask ourselves how we can do more. What are the best districts doing? How can we mimic that? Oxford offers a free semester-long ACT prep course in which students take countless practice tests, and they learn these necessary skills that I just described to you to increase their score. And I'm sure there are students in other districts that wish they had this opportunity. Now, my peers lack the skills necessary to score well on the ACT. The Mississippi Department of Education finds it necessary that they take the ACT. Therefore, I find it necessary that they be prepared for the ACT. Now, last night, I'm sorry, I'm going off script here. Last night I was running through this speech.
We're used to that, Charlie. Go right ahead.
Yes, sir. Last night I was running through this speech like I do before every meeting, trying to make sure that I sound coherent for y'all. And the question occurred to me, am I crazy? Am I viewing this with a different lens than everybody else sees it? And I apologize if I sound dramatic, but I think this is a problem worth being dramatic over. And as I previously stated, the ACT is a purely merit-based system, but test prep is not. You will have what I often split into 3 groups. The first group in my mind is comprised of the prep school kids, maybe the homeschool kids, the kids with classical educations, the kids who learned how to diagram a sentence. And yes, they will know what a subject and an object is, but they will also know the different types of nouns. They're going to know subjects, objects, indirect objects, predicate nominatives, object complement nouns, objects of prepositions. And they're going to know the right answers to questions. And then they're going to know why the ACT asked them that and what's beneath the questions, the science of English. Then you'll have the second group. And the second group will have paid for their tutors, or they'll be like kids at Oxford, and they will have an ACT prep class. And they're going to know the comma goes there, or the semicolon goes here, because their tutor said so. And their tutor showed them countless practice tests in which question after question, which appears the same on every ACT with different words, they'll know the right answers. And then you'll have the third group. And that's what most of Mississippi falls into. And they'll probably get about half the questions right on the ACT, and they might make a 20, and that's all right. That's not okay for me, though. We are mandating they take this test, right? And I'm sure all y'all are big baseball fans, and I came up with this analogy last night. These kids in group 1 that I just described to you, the prep school kids, the homeschool kids, they are paying for the hitting coaches. They're sent out there with the big bats. They've got the big barrels, and that ACT is the same fastball down the middle every time. We know it's coming. And they're going to take that massive hack, and they'll hit a home run every time. And these kids in group 2, they might have paid for a hitting coach with their dad's money. They might go to a school that has a hitting coach on staff, and they're going to have a normal baseball bat, and they might hit a double. And that's awesome. But the kids in group 3, they don't have any help. And they're going to march out to home plate with their state-issued toothpick, and they're going to try and get on base. And they might get hit by a pitch, and they might guess C most of the time, and that's awesome too. My question here is, how can we upgrade them from that state-issued toothpick to that bat? And that's what I posed to you today. Thank you.
Very good, Charlie. Let me say that the point that he's making is very valid. And I think that what you might want to do with your student group the next time you meet is talk to them about what they are doing in schools. For example, one of the greatest successes I've seen is in schools where every day there's a bell ringer that is ACT centered. That doesn't cost a penny.
Right.
But every day our students are seeing a question like year 5, and then an explanation of why is it right or why is it wrong.
Exactly.
So there are some ways to do this that definitely level the playing field that don't cost a lot of money for school districts. And I think that's some knowledge we need to get out there. So I would challenge you to go back to those students that you had and ask the exact question you just asked and see what those school districts are saying that our teachers do on a daily basis to make this happen. ACT is a great tool for money and scholarships, and it is true that every child should have that opportunity. So good points made. Now you see the power of student board members on our group. Mike?
So I think this board and the professionals in the room might have just heard a challenge. I hate for Charlie to, I hate for Charlie to have put the effort he put into a very well-delivered baseball analogy and us go, wow, that was great, thanks, see you next month. What happens now? I don't know. What happens next?
I think the answer to that question is, if we go back to Charlie's students and ask them what's going on, I think we can begin to compile stuff as school districts to share, and the art of education is to be able to steal from each other.
That's right.
And again, at the end of the day, it doesn't have to cost money. As
No,
long
and
as there's some blue ribbon things that you can do to make happen, and you share those across. And there are good things to do on a state website, as you said, the questions and so on.
Right.
Awareness is important.
I know in meeting with ACT, just recently, we had a meeting going over, there's actually a lot of free tutoring they have right there on their site. And so one of, like, you know, when you say next step, I know we've put that out there before, but obviously put another blast out to make sure all high schools are aware of that there's free ACT tutoring available right there for our kids. So sometimes, though, that's not as effective as that person-to-person type, and so it is really effective when you can have those ACT prep courses and so forth. But yeah, that's some really good points Charlie made. And also, you know, a lot of challenge, and that's a question that's been asked over the years is, you know, should our standards, you know, should they match our state standards or should they match ACT? And those are two different things. And that's a question we have to really look at. So, but yes, really good stuff, Charlie.
Another thing that the schools can do is ACT, what do they call it? They dismiss tests. That's not the right word, but they have, after a certain test is used for a period of time, it becomes available to use. Doesn't cost you a penny. So as kids take the ACT, they get those, you go to the library out of that. You got students like Charlie, #1 students, whatever, helping teachers to do that. A lot of ways to help with ACT, and my challenge back to you is to get some information from those kids and see what they're doing. Then we can get that to folks and make sure we know we're covering it the way we should, as Dr. Margino said, to make sure all school districts are aware. Great report. Thank you very much.
You know, one day when you are president, are you going to remember that I sat next to you?
We'll see if I get that far.
The state school board also has subcommittees, for you that are new with us, that meet to discuss individual smaller issues, not smaller issues, but in a smaller group, problems, issues, solutions as we move forward to help the children of our state. At this point, we have the reports for those subcommittees. Educator quality, Mr. Miller.
Yes, we met on Monday. My report is going to be very short because we're going to hear an update on the educator workforce development, and I do not want to steal their thunder.
All right.
With that, we can move to the next one.
Okay. Mr. Jacobs, internal accountability. Bill, can you hear me?
Yes, we met this morning. Yes, can you?
Yes, sir.
Hear me?
Yes, sir.
You hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yes. We, Accountability Committee met this morning. We had several long discussions. One on the 21st Community Learning Centers evaluations for 2022 and 2023. Those will be contracted to an external evaluator. We had a discussion on establishing protocols related to program evaluations for contracts. So we had quite a long meeting and a good one.
All right, sir. School performance and accountability, Dr. McGehee.
We had a meeting yesterday afternoon that Dr. Vanford shared with us the scores. We're very proud of what we've accomplished this past year on our assessments, and proud of our districts who scored tremendously. We took giant steps in a number of areas, and we'll have some reports about that coming later too.
Very well. And Ms. Werner, workforce and CTE.
Workforce development, we met this morning, and the first presentation Wendy Clemens gave us was on a yellow return of investment for a baseline report. And basically, she talked about pros and not cons, but challenges that came out of the report. And a couple of good points under the pros. Approximately 2,700 students enrolled in secondary, CTE programs each year, and that's a 10% growth over the participation of the last 5 years. So I think the more the students get to see what you can accomplish by taking CGP classes, the better off they're going to be, and the state of Mississippi is going to be. Now, some of the challenges, there seems to be one of the participants today, and I'm sorry I don't know her name, is doctor, and she said the community colleges are like silos. Over here they teach, say, welding one way, and over here they teach it another way. But we're teaching it a different way, or one of those other ways. So they're going to try to meld those together and get some alignments going. So that if you take a class here and you go into community college A, you don't have to start at the bottom. You can start where you have accomplished so far. And that's basically one of the things that I found was really important. And that in November, Brett Robinson is going to be attending the Dean retreat, Deans of Community Colleges retreat. And he's going to speak to them about that need of getting them out of silos and getting, I don't know egg terms, but just getting them into one big silo rather than different ones. So good luck on that. And one of the other thing we talked about was the need for CTE dual credit opportunities. There's a lot of opportunities for dual credit with the regular academic program, but we really do need more for CTE. And the last part of my report is the Perkins 5 state plan. Wendy Cummins, Ms. Cummins had explained that in the past I had said that we were going to join forces with Workforce, another an acronym, so I'm going to tell you what it means. Workforce Investment Opportunity Act, WIOA, and but we'll be working on that. I think it's going to take us one more year to get together on that. But our workforce plan, the Perkins 5 state plan, we're right on track, and we'll submit it to the state for approval. We'll submit it to the governor for him to review, and then to the state of education. So we should be doing well on the Perkins 5 plan. And I say it every time I give a report, and I'm going to say it again. These people on this committee, the people who work for MDE, they're fabulous. So anyway, that concludes my report.
Thank you, ma'am. Great reports, and as you've heard, a lot of these things will come up as we begin our regular agenda, so you'll hear some of that again. We have two informational items. First is Educator Workforce Development Update. Dr. Vanderford. And Dr. Van Cleve.
Good morning. I have with me this morning Dr. Courtney Van Cleve, who is an executive director in the Office of Teaching and Leading. And as Mr. Miller mentioned from the Educator Equality Subcommittee that was held earlier this week, we would like to provide a presentation or an overview of the results of the 22-23 teacher retention survey that was conducted. And in this presentation, we'll discuss some of the strategies as to how we recommend that we move forward to address some of the feedback that we did receive. This item is directly related to Goal 4 of the State Board Strategic Plan to have effective teachers and leaders in all of our districts and schools. preparing the students to enter the workforce. And so it's our challenge to develop policy that will address these concerns that have been mentioned. So at this time, I'll turn it over to Dr. Van Cleve, and she'll walk through the results.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you again for that introduction, Dr. Vanderford, along with the opportunity to share today's information item as an update on Mississippi's educator workforce. So as Dr. Vanderford mentioned, this priority around achieving Goal 4, and within the Office of Teaching and Leading, we work on a daily basis to ensure that we truly are supporting Mississippi's educators across their career continuum from recruitment to retirement. And so within today's presentation, we'll largely be focusing on efforts to retain our teachers, but what you'll also see is a lot of connections with those efforts to hire, support, and ultimately empower them as well. So moving into the results of this year's teacher retention survey, we're going to give a high-level overview of some of the survey findings along with the aligned strategies therein. The thing that we do want to note is that the full results of this year's teacher retention survey are also available on our website, all 80-something slides of them. We won't subject everyone to the 80-something slide presentation, but they are indeed available for ongoing conversations with our districts, universities, and other education stakeholders. So moving into that overview today, again, as with last year, we did develop the teacher retention survey using several sources from those such as North Carolina's working condition surveys, Tennessee's educator survey, in addition to Mississippi workforce initiatives. We've got the dates of the survey administration up here as well, which resulted in 9,448 Mississippi teachers responded to the survey, of which 6,267 Mississippi teachers completed the survey out of a total of 31,858 teachers for the 2022-2023 school year. This survey, again, was anonymous, and for a couple of pieces of context here, we did largely administer the same survey this year as we did last year for comparability. We wanted to establish a strong baseline before we start to make modifications moving forward. Point of reflection for us on that is we did have a higher overall completion rate, but we had a steeper drop-off. We're largely attributing that to the fact that it is a very comprehensive survey at 70-plus questions long. So one of the pieces that we do anticipate now that we have a strong baseline is to administer a shorter survey in upcoming years that continue to parse out some of the findings that we have had for this particular year in a hope to boost completion rates moving forward. So moving into those results, we'll start at the beginning of our educator career continuum with efforts to hire teachers. We wanted to offer this slide as kind of an overview of both the results that you all will see, but also those that are available within the full survey findings. So in your first column, what you'll see is you'll see the 2021-22 results. The second column are your 2022-23 results, and the third column is the year-over-year difference. And so while we're going to go into some newer items and notable shifts today, this slide is actually far more reflective of the kinds of results we saw, which were very consistent. We generally didn't see, in a number of questions, we didn't see any percentile changes in terms of rates of agreement or disagreement, but more often than not, we only saw percentage point shifts of 1 to 2. So within that, we did see a lot of consistency overall, even as we'll move into some of the newer items for this particular year. One of those new items for this particular year was at the suggestion of one of our board members last year, which was to parse out mentoring and what makes mentoring most effective. So we dug a bit deeper into that this year and surveyed teachers on some of the different factors within a mentor-mentee partnership. Overall, teachers highlighted the importance of teaching the same subject as the mentee as being the most important factor, then highlighted some of those professional tasks, things like getting ready for your first parent-teacher conference or the quality of your observation and coaching from your mentor. We also saw some interesting variation in terms of the degree of experience. Those teachers citing that when you've got about 5 or more years of experience than the mentee, that tended to be more important. You saw a steeper drop-off with the mentor having 15 or more years of experience than the mentee, so that's potentially a point of reflection for schools and districts in terms of thinking about the proximity of teacher experience when you're making those mentor-mentee partnerships. Another point of reflection for us this year is that respondents could select up to 2 options. I think moving forward, we're likely going to parse out the questions related to experience, subject grade level placement, and then mentoring tasks into 3 separate questions so that we can drill down a bit more deeper into what's actually most important in some of these relationships. So with that being said, a few other points of reflection that we did indeed see. In terms of the working conditions section of this survey, we saw an uptick in the number of interruptions that teachers are experiencing throughout the instructional day. And one of the points, we thought this was a fairly timely finding, knowing that we're moving from homecoming season into the holiday season, potentially a point of reflection for schools and districts on just those simple questions that happen throughout the day. Do I really need to hit the intercom button right now? Do I really need to send another runner to the classroom? Again, we know that sometimes that is critically important, and at the same time, maybe there are other systems that will preempt some of those during the day notifications as a whole. So with that being said, we also wanted to highlight some of the positive upticks that we are seeing, and really across the board, we saw a lot of positive upticks in the interaction between school leaders and teachers. This question in particular in relation to teacher performance being assessed objectively and teachers receiving feedback to help improve teaching was one of the largest overall gains that we saw. So here we wanted to shout out our partnership with our Mississippi Regional Education Service Agencies, or our Mississippi RESAs, who've been an incredible partner in offering statewide professional growth system training on some of those quality observation and coaching practices. So we were excited to see the results of some of that training statewide and look forward to continue it moving forward. Another area of uptick that we saw was on those questions related to increased teacher compensation. And so as always, when we see some of those upticks, we dig deeper into teacher comments. And by and large, actually to use a teacher's term, they cited outside economic pressures as part of the rationale for that. They cited those economic demands, things like rising fuel costs, insurance premiums, inflation rates, as some of the primary drivers behind those elements around increased teacher compensation. Where it does get interesting, though, is that where respondents noted the importance of additional teacher pay raises for recruiting and retaining other teachers, they themselves highlighted their interactions with students as the primary driver for their reason to continue staying in the classroom. And so with that, moving into a brief summary of some of the findings we've seen. Again, the quality of resources, instructional practices, learning environments, PD, and community support were very consistent for teachers this past couple of years. Where we did see upticks is in school leaders offering objective observations and feedback to improve teaching, that compensation is a consideration for teachers due to current economic demands, and didn't come as necessarily a surprise, but teachers certainly reiterated that they primarily continue in the classroom because of their students. So given some of those findings, we'll give a brief overview of some of the statewide strategies that we look to continue to pursue throughout this year. I noted earlier our partnership with our Mississippi RESAs. We've actually only been working through them to offer professional growth system training for just over a year now. And with that, we've had over 1,000 administrators and educators alike to actually go through professional growth system training. Given the results that we're seeing, we're eager to continue that particular partnership even as we look for other opportunities to partner with our Mississippi RESAs throughout the year as a shorter-term strategy. And also as a longer-term strategy, we have recently restructured into a dedicated Office of Educator continuum within teaching and leading that currently houses our divisions of educator talent acquisition, preparation, effectiveness, professional development, and pathway innovation, such that we are truly operationalizing this notion of supporting educators from recruitment to retirement on a daily basis and providing some of those aligned supports across our different areas. And finally, another note that we are excited to continue is just a recognition of the impact that we know our teachers make on their students on a daily basis. In that effort, we relaunched the Elevate Teachers Conference this past summer. We had over 300 participants in an event that was designed to celebrate, inspire, and empower Mississippi's teachers. And based on these results from Mississippi teachers themselves, we think we did just that and are excited to continue hosting the event. And so with that, I will take any questions that the board may have
Any
or
board members
comments.
have questions?
Sir.
Dr. McGehee?
Got my pen ready.
Ready to go, right? As more districts are looking at the flexible or modified schedule or calendar, are we asking them any questions about how that's impacting their ability or desire to stay?
That's a good point. We did not ask questions about modified calendars and whatnot in the impact, but as we have done previously, we can certainly make sure we've got that in the note for upcoming.
Okay, great.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Good.
Do your results track regions of the state? Are there some things in some areas of the state that outweigh concerns in other areas of the state? And would that indeed affect a strategy regionally?
So with this particular survey, we don't track by the regions of the state. It is an anonymous survey, so it makes it a little bit more difficult. However, when we get into educator shortage survey results, we do indeed track that by regions of the state and then modify some of our strategies based on those results.
Mr. Pruitt, that the educational shortage survey, do you know what that is? You want her to explain that to us?
Say it again.
The educator shortage, why don't you explain that to
Sure,
us?
can do.
Dr. Van Cleef?
Can do. So we administer 2 surveys annually. We've got the teacher retention survey, and then very shortly what you'll see is our educator shortage survey. And so in that survey, we actually survey all of our districts. We reach out directly to superintendents and or their designees to get a sense of the anticipated vacancies for the upcoming year. And that survey is actually out and live now. And then we bring those results back as soon as we've heard from all of our school districts. And we do appear to be on track again to get that 100% participation rate again this year.
And that's not as detailed as what we've seen today, but at least gives you an idea of where we may have some shortages across the state.
Absolutely.
I will tell you, Dr. Van Cleef, that we've done the crazy thing. At the end of the year last year, our mentees made the suggestion that they pick their mentors after being in school for 30 days. So we are experimenting with that process this year. And I think your data on years of experience is why that was asked. There's a truthism, if you will, to the fact that a person with 5 years and a person that's brand new probably have more in common initially and can build a relationship quicker. So I think that was their logic. Don't know the results yet, but we'll know here as we dismiss school in June. So a lot of good things going on across our state, and thank you for that work.
Wonderful.
Great
Thank
report.
you so much. We'll be excited to learn.
I've got one question. This is teacher retention survey, is that right?
Yes.
So a lot of my teachers, we've actually had a lot of teachers leave recently because of disputes over which courses they're allowed to teach and which ones they aren't due to decisions by administration. So does this survey ask any questions about satisfaction with administration?
It does. It's got a number of different questions. There's a whole section that's related to school leadership. It builds on things like the degree of trust and collegiality. There's specific questions too around sort of teachers' decision-making authority within a particular school. And so that gets at some of those elements around sort of course preps and who's weighing in and where, and whether there's actually a process for teachers to be involved in some of the decision-making and problem-solving efforts of the school. So those questions are indeed included in the full results. There's a much bigger section around school leadership. But again, we did see a lot of upticks in terms of the interactions between school leaders and teachers. So think that they're certainly doing a lot to continue to promote some of those positive interactions as a whole. But yeah, those are all available.
I will also add, Charlie, that that's also a part of the shortage that we have. So we're really having to count on teachers because of certification for school districts to say in compliance on accountability. So that's a real world problem that schools and tough decisions for principals to have to make to stay in compliance. So that's a very real world problem. Again, it ties directly to the number of people and individuals that are graduating from colleges and going into education. Good questions. Any other board members? Another informational piece, Dr. Boone.
And Mr. East, I'm going to yield to Dr. Smith, Ms. Wynn, elementary ed and literacy, to bring to you the data on after the second retest of the third grade gate. They're going to bring you that data.
Very good.
Excuse me, this is Mary Warner. I can't hear Dr. Boone.
All she was doing is assigning 2 other great people for us to come up and talk to and present her work there, Ms. Werner.
Okay, sounds good. Didn't want to miss anything.
You want. The brains behind the game are sitting in front of us, I believe, so we're in good shape. I wish y'all could have seen the technology team this morning. They had a snafu with their system, and in about 45 minutes had it solved and worked out. It was great to see those young folks working on that project today. So, all right, ladies.
All right. Thank you. Good morning, Mr. East, Dr. Morgino, and State Board members. I'm Dr. Jeanette Smith. I'm the Executive Director for Elementary Education and Reading. And I have with me today Ms. Kristen Wynn, who is our K-12 State Literacy Director. And this morning, we will present a short report as required by the Literacy-Based Promotion Act around our state annual outcomes. You know, we know that it aligns with our vision and mission, and I will sort of quickly jump through that. This report also aligns with State Board Goals 1 and 2. As you know, the Literacy-Based Promotion Act was established in 2013. It was established to improve reading skills in kindergarten through third grade students. It requires all K-3 students to be administered a universal screener at 3 times a year, beginning of the year, middle of the year, and end of the year, as well as all third grade students taking a third grade reading assessment. These students must score a level 3 or above to be promoted to 4th grade. The Literacy-Based Promotion Act, or Mississippi Code Annotated 37-177-17, requires reporting to the State Board. It requires that districts upload their school board policies on student retention and promotion. This year, we only required them to upload that information if they change their policies. Districts must also publish in the newspaper or social media platform or their websites the annual LBPA report. There is a QR code scan right there that will take you to all 140 districts as well as the state. Leave it there, Kristen. The literacy-based, you have before you a copy of the state overall account report. The report requires us to show the third grade assessments, ELA, as well as third grade results for math, looking at all 5 accountability levels. It also requires that we report students who are retained in grades kindergarten through 3rd grade. And I must point out that these retentions most of them are around the local school board's decision to retain the students. Even our 3rd grade students who pass the 3rd grade assessment may be retained because of local requirements. It also looks at our good cause exemptions and reports it by each of the categories, and those categories are explained at the bottom. So those are specifically required through the law. I'm going to take this time to turn it over to Ms. Wynn, who will talk to you a little bit more about the results of the assessment.
So as you see on this particular graph, in 2019, our initial pass rate was 74.5. After the pandemic, post-pandemic 2023, we exceeded that initial pass rate at 76.3 of our students. Our final pass rate, if you looked from left to right, we started in 2019 around 85.6%. In 2023, we've landed just a little below that at 84.9. However, if you factor in our good cause exemptions, we are sitting at around 92.8% of our 3rd graders promoted to 4th grade. We're looking at approximately 7% of our 3rd graders being retained, and that retention also includes district-level retention policies. So it could be they were retained for math or something that they did not meet district-level retention policies. Okay, So what are our next steps? We want to work to improve literacy outcomes for all of our students. Our goal is to have 100% of our students passing third grade reading assessment. One thing we want to look at is the continued providing professional development resources and instructional supports grounded in the science of reading. And Charlie, the science of reading covers your syntactical awareness early on as kindergarten through third grade. So that should be covered under the science of teaching reading. And I'll have to say our team yells from the mountaintop that we are a science of reading state. Also provide coaching supports to identify literacy support schools. And then we've also created and trained a network of school-based literacy coaches. So this is our first cohort, and we wanted to train school-based coaches with the same amount of training and expertise as our state-level literacy coaches. We also want schools and districts to continue to identify instructional needs based on diagnostic assessments and making sure that we're aligning interventions and supports for improvement. And the last bullet, we wanted to make sure that all of our students have equitable access to high-quality instructional materials that support a systematic, explicit literacy instruction grounded in the science of reading. That is our annual literacy-based promotion report.
Learned something today too, didn't you, Charlie?
Awesome.
Board members, any questions that you have of our team? Ladies, great job. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Dr. Gavin, our first action item for today, approval of MDE grants. Good morning.
Good morning. We have before the board today 2 contracts, and they're both modifications to existing contracts. The first contract is a contract with Eames Link, and that is our grants management system, the system we use to host and manage all of our grants for the agency and the districts. Action item 3B is a contract with the Mississippi State Department of Health, and that is for summer food service program inspections that are performed by the Department of Health.
Board members, any questions of Dr. Gavin on either of these contracts? Jacobs, Ms. Werner?
No, I'm fine.
Okay. Motion to approve items 3A and 3B.
Moved.
So moved, Mary Werner.
We got you on the second, Ms. Werner. Mr. Pruitt on the motion, Ms. Werner on the second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed?
Aye.
All right.
Okay, moving on to action item 4A. We have 1 grant that we're seeking approval from the board on, and it is for the BSCA, which is the Bipartisan Safer Communities Act. It is a grant for $12.4 million. And you can see the list of districts that have been awarded those grants.
Any questions concerning those grants? Motion to approve 4A. Ms. Barrett. Second? Miller. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. All right, we're now to our consent agenda. As explained earlier, these are items that we are presented with well before the board meeting to go over, call staff if we have any questions. So on the consent agenda, do I have a motion to approve items A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, and L? Motion? Ms. Barrett?
Second.
Ms. Werner, a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Thank you. This brings us to consideration for the need of executive session, but if you may, let me make one announcement. Public comments are not permitted during or after our board meetings. You have to work through the staff of the State Department of Education for those public comments. So is there a need to go into executive session?
I move that the board consider making a closed determination of the need to go into executive session.
I have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. McGehee, Dr. McGehee, second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, we'll need to clear the boardroom. and then Aaron will be second.
Ready?
No.
Wait, I have to read out to the
Oh,
public.
sorry.
The board has gone into executive session for discussion of discrete personnel matters in accordance with Mississippi Code annotated 2541-7-4A and K, and discussion and strategy sessions or negotiations with respect to prospective litigation, ongoing litigation, or issuance of an appealable order in accordance with Mississippi Code annotated sections 2541-7-4B.
Okay.
Extend it forever.
The board in executive session discussed the recruitment period for our state superintendent. The recruitment period for the state superintendent of education began on August the 14th and will close tonight at 11:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. The position announcement is posted on the MDE website, the McPherson and Jacobson and the McPherson and Jacob website, and has been shared nationally by the search firm. On September 5th, the Communications Office released a stakeholder survey for public comment, which closed on September the 22nd. On November the 2nd, the State Board will meet with McPherson and Jacobson consultants to discuss the candidates who applied for the position, view applicant videos, and select the semifinalists for interviews to be held on December 11th and December the 12th. Following the semifinalist interviews, finalists will be selected for interview on December the 20th. The state superintendent will be appointed by the State Board on December the 20th with a hire date of July 1, 2024 upon Senate confirmation. Any other questions from the board before we close our meeting? Motion to adjourn?
No.
So moved.
So moved.
I'm gonna let Mary win that one. Mary gets the motion and we'll let Matt have the second. Thank you. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Bill, you and Mary have a good weekend. Good to see y'all.
Thank you.